House, where we have conversation on life, politics, and Jesus. I'm Dwight Moody, your host. I've been hosting the Meeting House, since 1998 in one fashion or another. And today I want to start with a public service announcement. On this broadcast, there's no AI. That's artificial intelligence. There's no images, there's no text that's created by AI. This is all genuine, local, and everything. No artificial intelligence. Well, there may not be any natural intelligence either, but at least I can tell you that there's no artificial intelligence. And this is the house, the Meeting House, where we gather each week, a network of seekers and believers. And you know, I think all of us are part seeker, part believer. There was a famous episode in the life of Jesus where somebody said to him, "Lord, I believe, help my unbelief." I think that speaks for a lot of us. Some things we know, a lot of things we don't know. Some things we believe, a lot of things we're not sure. Some things we know we don't believe. Some things we used to believe, we don't believe anymore. Things we used to think were heretical, now we embrace as very important to our worldview, our spiritual life. And I'm sure that's true of you. It certainly is true of me. I watch a lot of videos of people who are deconstructing their religion, especially those that grew up in high control religions. And I've thought about this an awful lot, and I want to say I think I have been deconstructing and reconstructing my faith, my religion, my worldview since the very beginning. And all along I've had people who have guided me, inspired me, taught me, rebuked me, challenged me, who have demonstrated for me and for many other people what it means to be a growing, thinking, believing, seeking person. That's the kind of person I want to be. I suspect that's the kind of person you want to be. Now, my goal in this Sunday morning program is always to generate where you are a hopeful household. That your household, whoever lives in your household, might be nurturing hope as a fundamental disposition of life. Hope in the world, hope in God, hope in the future, hope for your children, hope for your parents, hope for yourself, your community, that we believe that there is in the world, in us, in our community, in our households, a spiritual power, a godly power, divine power, a universal power that is overcoming wickedness and sin and doubt and frustration and failure, overcoming all of that for a more vibrant and fulfilling future. Second, I hope that this broadcast week by week creates some joyful times in your life and my life. You know, there's a lot of bad stuff that's going down, not only around us, but around the world. Stuff we know about that the media brings to us, stuff we know about in our own private circles. We know a lot of hard stuff. But we want to be joyful people. We don't want to be depressed. We don't want to be discouraged. We don't want to be angry. We want to be joyful, to sing for joy, live with hope, as I've said many times. You know, we want to be Jesus people. People who have found in Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the Christ, the Messiah, a person of influence, a person of inspiration. Last week I kind of summarized this for us all, that challenging you and challenging everybody to try Jesus as an example of what it means to be human. As simple as that. Jesus was the great example of what it means to be a human person. Strong and tender at the same time. Compassionate and courageous at the same time, depending on what the situation was. So we want to look to Jesus to help us understand what we need to be as a person. Second, we try Jesus as our avenue of spirituality. There's a lot of religion in the world. There's a lot of spirituality. There are a lot of techniques, a lot of books, a lot of conferences, a lot of people who live a spiritual life. And many of these are good for us. Many of these teach us and inspire us. Jesus can be that kind of person too. As we read the text that his first followers left behind about how he treated people, how he responded to the world, how he maintained a sense of purpose and focus in his life when people tried to rebuke him and push him off course. Jesus is an avenue of true spirituality. And then third, as we're doing in our text for today, an interpreter of events. We try Jesus to help us understand what's happening around us. What's going down, as they say. We need somebody to help us interpret. Is this a God thing? Or is this a demonic thing? Is this a truthful thing? Or is this leading us into distraction? One of the things that has come up in this our chapter, which I'm going to get to in just a minute, of our red letter lesson of Jesus talking about the destruction that's coming to Jerusalem and how we are supposed to live in the dramatic, traumatic times. Here we are. I want to mention, as I try to do each week, some things that are dramatic and traumatic, some things that are wicked, and some things that are just way out of bounds. Now, here are three things. I'm going to mention them very briefly. You may know about them. Number one, what we have seen in these last 6 months is the President, the Congress, and the Supreme Court conspire to create the most powerful presidency we've ever seen. Now, I want to remind you that when the Constitution was written, and all those famous men, all of them white men, got together to frame what the Constitution was going to look like, how our country was going to be governed, the overriding reality that they were responding to was a powerful executive. Now, in those days, it was the King of England, who had unlimited power, unlimited money. And the people set up our country, our Constitution, in every way possible to limit the power of the chief executive, to tap it down and surround it with fences. So it's ironic and crazy that the Supreme Court, all of whom claim to be originalists, have unleashed on us this year the most powerful, unhinged, unbounded, unlimited chief executive the country has ever known. The second thing that's happened, I read through an article about the 10 most distressed states in the Union. The top 10 states where the people, not necessarily the state government, but the people, the population, were in the most financial distress, where they had high balances on their credit cards, where more people had filed for bankruptcy, more people were unemployed. And you know, of these 10 states where the people were most financially distressed, 9 of them are red states governed by the Red Party. And the crazy thing is that these same people, I want to call out Mike Johnson because Louisiana is at the top of that list. He is the Speaker of the House. He wants to do for the whole country what they've managed to do in Louisiana, which is allow, cultivate, and permit enormous financial distress among their people. Now, here's the third thing The president, our chief executive, who has apparently unlimited power, has announced he wants to do a midterm census. Normally it's done every 10 years. It's mandated by the Constitution. It is a responsibility of Congress. But he has announced that he wants to do a census, and in this census, not count undocumented people. Perhaps not even count people who are not citizens, who are documented without citizens. Well, I want to say to you, I hope this happens. I hope he gets his way here. I hope in another year they send out those envelopes to all of us with the census material in it. Because you know what I'm going to do? And I challenge you to do? We're going to turn this into a national protest, and we're going to gather in great public squares all over the country with large shredding machines. We're going to have a shredding party. That's right, a census shredding party. You heard it here first. This is the way that we, the people, are going to respond to this goofy idea of dehumanizing people that the president doesn't like and doesn't want to see. In the middle of all this, you know what we need over and over again? We need to borrow something from the recovery community. Now, I've been in and out around the recovery community for a long time. Like many of you, I've got people close to me who've struggled in addiction. We need the serenity prayer. Lord, give us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change. And there's a lot happening in the country that we cannot change. We don't have the power, the resources, the manpower, the votes to change some of the ugly things that have been perpetrated upon us this year. Give us the serenity to accept these things and live through them. Second, give us the courage to change the things we can. Now, I have encouraged all of us to do these 5 things: to protest, to march, to boycott, to strike, to vote, and to pray. I hope you're doing all of these. It takes courage to stand up to a lot that's going on in the country. And then finally, in the Serenity Prayer, the wisdom to know the difference between what we can change and what we can't change. We need to focus on the things we can change and maintain a sense of personal serenity, peace, and perspective in the middle of things that we don't like. I've encouraged you also always in the middle of all this bad news week by week to take a hike in the mountains, go to a ball game. This is baseball season. Last night started football season. The Steelers won, I want to point out today. Go to a concert in a big hall or in a small coffee shop. Find a festival to go to. In a few weeks, Hendersonville's going to be having their Apple Festival. It's one of the best around here. Go to a market. We go to the market every Saturday morning and sometimes more often. And yesterday, I want to tell you, I found this display, Front Yard Foods. I really liked the title. We had a long talk with the woman who started this 5 or 6 years ago. Now, this year, in the last year, she has sold 8,000 plants. I love that spirit of entrepreneurial spirit. I liked her display. You can find that sort of thing and those kind of people at your local market. Now, I'll be back in just a minute with our red letter lesson, but take a look at this video, which I also filmed yesterday, of a steel drum. I'd never seen one. Enjoy it. Great. Now we're in, session 6 in Mark 13. This is a wonderful text, but it has just combobulated so many people over the years. And I want to summarize the way I've interpreted this text. Remember, we're in this long series of Jesus and politics. Some people say, if you're going to go with Jesus, stay away from politics. But I've tried to show you that Jesus' entire life was circumscribed by the political realities of his day. He lived in an occupied country. And here he is teaching and predicting and preparing his people in Mark chapter 13, also Matthew 24, about the coming destruction of Jerusalem because of a political reality. Now, what I'm going to do is, if you remember, the first part of this was the questions. Lord, when is this going to happen? Are there going to be signs that we can pay attention to? And Jesus divided the future into several categories. He said, first, there is every day. He gave a series of signs, said this is a sign of the way life is. When you see these things happen, don't get disturbed. Don't think it means anything. This is just the way life is. And then he talked about that day. Not every day, but that day, by which he meant the destruction of Jerusalem, the killing of a lot of people, the war when the Romans brought their legions in. And then he talked about after that day, and there are some things about this material that I am going to read. He said, after the destruction of Jerusalem, after that political debacle, after that war in which things are destroyed and people are killed and you all flee to the mountains. This is what Jesus said. In those days, after that tribulation, that is Jerusalem, the sun shall be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, stars of heaven fall, the powers in heaven shall be shaken. Now, this is what we call apocalyptic language. It's not realistic language. It's not describing realism, the way things are. It's not using normal language, because what Jesus is referring to is an ahistorical event, something that he doesn't even have the language to describe. In other words, what he does not understand is going to happen. He understood the political, historical, military, economic stuff like we do. But when he got to talking about after that day, he's using apocalyptic language, poetic language, to talk about something that cannot be described in normal events, in normal language. The Son of Man coming in clouds with power and glory. Now that evokes language out of the Hebrew Bible. He sends his angels and gather the elect from the four winds. This visionary day of hope, of God intervening in a hopeful way. Now, I want to say three things about this vision and this text. Number one, it is apocalyptic language. That is, it's very difficult for us to understand and to describe it, and to you cannot take this event and use our historic, political, economic, natural language to envision it or describe it. No, you can't. It's going to be more of an otherworldly thing, like many of our movies are today, where they have to use not historical things, but they have to use imaginary things. The second thing about this text about after that day is that it's very confusing. I want to tell you, nobody knows what it means. From the very beginning, people thought they knew. They thought that it was going to be, well, Jesus is coming back. They thought that in the first century. Some people quit work. And some people wrote Paul the Apostle and asked this question: Well, we thought Jesus was going to come back to take us and build his kingdom here, but now these people have died. What's going to happen to them? From that point until today, well-meaning and sometimes intelligent believers have thought the world was going to come to an end and Jesus was going to come and things were going to happen. They've pieced together this and that, painted a picture, pulled out this verse, that verse, and predicted the end of everything. But everybody's been confused. Everybody. And Jesus constantly warns us, if people come to you and say, now's the time, this is the person, don't believe them. Over and over again, in this very text, over and over again, Jesus says, people are going to come and say, I know the plan. I know when it's going to happen. Jesus said, don't pay them any attention. They're confused. I don't think anybody knows. So when I read C.S. Lewis, who has been a great influence in my life, this is what he said. When the history of the church is finally written to its conclusion, we will have been living in the period of the early church. Now, we most of the time think that the early church was the first, second, third, fourth, fifth centuries. That's what we think. We talk about the early church fathers. I like what C.S. Lewis said. He had a much longer view of reality. That we here in the year 2225, we are still living in the period of the early church. Now it's very possible, number three, for us to be distracted by all of this end of the world speculation and confusion. At the end of this sermon, and we're going to look at it next week, Jesus concludes with the most powerful parable he ever told, that plus the Samaritan. He told the parable of the great judgment. People brought in, judged the sheep and the goats. And the way people are judged was only this. Did you feed the hungry? Did you welcome the stranger? Did you visit people who are incarcerated? With the implication, because they are innocent people. That is, Jesus was concerned was never with the end of the world, always with today and tomorrow. What am I going to do today? What am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do this week to live like Jesus, to live like a human? Well, that wraps up this red letter lesson. I'll have one more on this text, just as I said, but I'll be back in just a minute. Here's a video that one of our friends of the house sent in from Coney Island, New York. Thank you, Karen, for sending in that video. I want to invite any of you to send in a video of interesting things where you are. Always do it horizontal, film it horizontal, put it up on your Facebook page. We'll download it and use it. But I want to say that I'm looking for donors number 71, 72, 73, and 74. You know, my goal is to have 75 donors. And I had a call this week from a listener who said to me, tell me when you get donor number 74 because I want to be donor number 75. I like that attitude. This past 8 days, we have had donations from Louisiana, California, Illinois, Maine, Tennessee, and Kentucky. It's been a good 8 days. I want to encourage you to be faithful in support of my ministry through the website, through the newsletter. I hope all of you are subscribed to the newsletter. We normally have about 100 viewers in a given week for this broadcast, but I normally have about 500 readers of the newsletter each week. And you can do both. You can subscribe to the newsletter. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and help us in that way. My goal is to have a donor in every state of the Union. That's my goal. I hope you'll help me reach that. Tell me what you think about this. Write me, call me, send me a text, send an email. I encourage you to share this show as we try to reach out, broaden our audience, and broaden our influence. The House is part of the great resistance to the political confusion that's in the world, but it's the place where we embrace Jesus of Nazareth as the great prophet of God, as the Messiah of the Jews, as the Lord of heaven and earth, as our Savior and Lord and God. That's what binds us together even as we continue to be seekers, seeking to know the truth and to be the truth in our world today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a cup of coffee in your hand. I hope you have a beautiful day. And I would love to hear from you. I am Dr. Dwight A. Moody in the Meeting House. I'll see you next Sunday. God bless you.